Hey, what's up? Sending love. Recently asked a question about why do I feel worried about how other people view me or how other people are thinking of me. Most people are too bothered with their own self that they don't care about what you're thinking or doing because they're too concerned about their own problems, which is true, but also it doesn't really fully uncover reality of why we're worried what other people think all the time and how being ourselves is sometimes a challenge in modern society. So I wanted to break down a bit about why that might be. I found it really interesting learning about how shame is sometimes used as an abuse when you're a child. I'm just saying in general, sometimes we see from my experience, like going to school and your parents kind of shaming you to behave in a certain way. And I know from my experiences as a child in school and learning, I was made to feel ashamed of my actions that didn't fit into the actions or the policy in a certain way. It can really have like lasting effects on our mental health and self-esteem. When we really look at how parents might use shame as a way to control behavior by highlighting mistakes or shortcomings in a negative and humiliating way, this can really create a lot of fear of judgment from others because the child begins to internalize their actions inherently wrong or unacceptable. Over time, this kind of shaming can lead to development of anxiety with what other people think about them. And I definitely know from my own feelings, because my parents would take me to school and they'd be like, why can't you be like them? Look at what you're doing, you're embarrassing us, like you need to behave this way. Don't step out of realms of like what we feel is acceptable and what isn't within being correct. Pattern of shaming is passed down in generations, so you can't always say like it's my parents' fault. It's modern day society sometimes uses shame as a tool to kind of correct people, and that can really develop for us when we're younger. In such an environment, it can kind of constantly seek validation from others from the fear of rejection or become overly concerned these perceived expectations. And from my experience, I definitely struggle with feelings of feeling inadequate or constantly worrying about being judged. And that can lead to social anxiety and a lack of confidence to be your true self. I think it's important to try and encourage positive behavior through constructive criticism, which we do tend to see now more, and rather than resorting to kind of shaming tactics. But I think it's important to understand where that fear is developed. I really want to discuss that. I think it's super important because our brains are actually wired to detect threats. Most people detect a threat through a physical danger. So it might be that if you drive, you go on the road and you see an accident and you're sort of adapting to those threats. Or it could be that you're scanning threats for any kind of public assaults or whatever it may be. Our brains are very sort of programmed in that way. And this fear can stem from the fear of shame and the humiliation rooted from the deep social nature of how we live in society. And when you look at historically, being accepted by social groups actually meant survival for us because we didn't really do that well as individuals alone. So for our survival, it was really important that we were accepted in social groups. So it makes sense when you look at the threat of a social threat. So having a physical threat where we go through life and we think that we might have kind of public assaults or it's like a road protection. We see physical threats, road accidents, and we try and make sure that these threats, we're scanning for that to avoid it. And we also do stuff like this through a social threat. And if you don't have that sense of acceptance and belonging, and you don't get that kind of care and support from social circles, it really can have a detrimental effect to our own well-being. And that sometimes is a big gamble to play. This is kind of linked into why we may have these concerns when we think about what other people are thinking of us. And I think it's important to bring that up because it shows that not everyone's views align with growth. And sometimes we have to stay within certain protective bubbles with our friends and family or work colleagues, because we have this fear of rejection if we do step out. But it is so crucial for our personal development to break free from these constraints, especially when friends may not be supportive and caring of your views. A group that isn't providing you healthy growth and not providing for our well-being, you feel unvalued, and that can really have a huge effect on emotional health. So it makes sense when we look at the risk reward to being rejected around social groups and also creating new friends. We understand now that there is a fear of social rejection, and it helps us navigate our need for acceptance. Remember, it's okay to step out of your protective bubble to foster a personal growth and find a sense of belonging that nurtures your well-being. And so that's part of the development of journey on this earth. But I suppose my tip would be that you try and find the safe groups that allow you to feel supported, and they care about your own emotional well-being, and they foster that growth within you. If you are around people that aren't supportive or caring and not able to be accepted, then it's important to try and break free from these constraints. Hopefully that explains a little bit more in-depth discussion about how you care about what other people think and why we are worried about what other people think. When you can kind of understand that a bit more, you can understand the feelings don't just come because you're an alien and like no one's gonna like you. It's genuinely because of the way we have been developing and evolving. But yeah, if you like this video, please like and follow, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.